We are live. We're going to assume that we are live. We're kicking this off. We had some tech challenges. Zoom and Facebook were no longer playing nicely this morning. And we did some real-time pivoting, has been the case a few times. We're just kind of straining the broadband right now, but we're here, we're live. So this is Pivotme Live. Again, we've done something a little bit different. We're moved into video format and doing these Pivotme Lives because what we found was that doing the standard podcasting channel, the information had a bit of a delay, a few days of a delay. And right now things are moving very quickly. So we wanted to bring you information quicker. We wanted to bring you real information, relevant information, and have just honest chats with business owners around the world on how they're navigating this season, what they're doing with their team, whether they're essential or not, how they're managing their staff during that time, and also the opportunities they may have identified and some resources that they're using that are helping them get through this time. So that brings us to today and our Pivot Me Live. And I'm super excited about our guest today. Selfishly, I love talking to Monica, and I know you will as well. Monica Lead is the CEO and owner of Simply Space and author of the book titled the same, Simply Space, Clear the Clutter and Style Your Life. I believe you're calling in from the Los Angeles area. Is that about right?
That's where I'm at. Yep. That's where I am.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today and sticking with us during our tech issues.
No worries. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, tell us about yourself, Monica. Tell us about what you do and who you do it for.
Sure. So I own a professional organizing company. We're a service-based company here in Los Angeles. We also have a satellite operation in New York. And we help people clear the clutter and style their lives. Basically, we're a full service professional organizing company. So the majority of our business up until this point has been in-home services. And we work with high performers who want to clear both the physical and the emotional clutter to help them live the best life that they possibly can. And that's what we do. We're super passionate about it. I love what I do. And I can't wait to get back to it.
I bet. So that brings us to our next point, which is, first, I got to just say, clear the physical and emotional clutter. Wow, that's a powerful statement. I hadn't heard that before. And boy, is that true, huh?
Yeah, it's one of the things, I mean, I talk about this actually in my book, but one of the things that I've realized, even through my own experience and sort of how what brought me to this career was that process of catharsis that I went through, where I was feeling so overwhelmed by my life that I needed to clear clutter and all the things. And it was, for me, it started out as the physical, but what I realized long-term is it wasn't really even about the physical, it was about the internal. And so there's definitely an emotional component. I see that with my clients all the time. Sometimes it starts with the physical, sometimes it starts with the mental. So wherever you are in that process, but the link is sort of unmistakable. And I know that more than ever. And actually, when I started this business, I actually came, you know this, we talked about this before, but I come from the film industry. So I used to design film sets that were built around characters and their environments. And so I learned a lot about what our homes and our environment say about us. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about that for myself. And then, and now I do it for a living. I have a team of people here in LA.
Wow. So it's funny because I mentioned that after a trip you and I took to Charleston, it inspired me to podcast on the topic of essentially thinking about your life like a set design, like approaching it like a set designer. After, you and I talked through what you did, and then we were in this little boutique hotel in Charleston, and I was saying, man, when I'm in this room, I feel so inspired, and I want to write a book, and I want to this, and I want to sit in this high back chair, and maybe I'll wear an ascot or smoke a cigar. I'm not sure, or a pipe probably. And you were saying, well, what you're experiencing is set design. This place is making you feel a certain way. And what was interesting to me is it was changing my behavior. Like how I was conducting myself in that room was changing. The things I thought I should do were changing. And then I thought, man, isn't this powerful in our own lives? Like how we have our house or how we have our own home office, that can help dictate, I'm sure, how you show up, how you experience life, and how you conduct yourself, at least in that space.
Absolutely. I think that was a really profound experience, and we had it together because we were sitting in this southern room, and it was like a library. And we just both, I think both of us left saying, "Don't we just want to stay here and write and
Yes.
converse?" And we were slower in our conversation. I think we ended up staying there, just being very, very present with ourselves and with each other for a long time. And
way past the staff wanted us to be there. Wait, we closed the place down. Yeah, we did.
And we felt the same way even at the hotel I was staying at, in that main room that we started in. And there was just something, so it was interesting to how where that conversation led, because it is true. And for me, in coming from the film industry, so much of that comes right off of the page, right? The story is there, it's explicit. As opposed to being implicit, it's in the script. You're reading what these characters' environments look like, and then you're just enhancing it and you're creating it. And I think what's really interesting is that our lives are also very much like that. We just don't tend to see it that way, right? Our environments are, to some degree, a mirror of who we are and what we do every day, and the kinds of things that we care about. And many people don't want to admit that, because maybe they are dealing with clutter, or there's things that are out of their control. But I think there's also a huge opportunity in that, which is to say, use your environment to tell the story that you want to create. And particularly because we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and, high performers who maybe don't have have a vision for what that story is or what that environment could be, but they don't have the implication know-how, or they don't know how to get it there. So that's kind of why I wrote the book. And it's what I try to teach people, is how to set up their home environment, which is really interesting because especially now, people are realizing all the ways in which their home environments are not supporting them to live the life that they want to be living. They're not writing the novels, they're buried in clutter, or they're, trying to be productive, and they're like, all I can see is mess and overwhelm. So it's a very interesting way. And I liked that you as an outsider could recognize that, because it even helped me articulate some of what I do, particularly the influence of the background that I have.
There's so many questions I want to ask you about that, Monica. That was amazing. One of them is that I just want to go back to when you're saying about, our outside, like our environment is often a reflection of some of the things that are going on the inside, and whether that can be a little bit of a painful truth tea for some people to drink. But what was interesting is people often think they have to fix the inside before they fix the outside. And what I'm hearing is it can actually be the reverse. Like you can go in, is that fair to say? Like you could go in and change your environment and give you more clarity on the inside just because you've completely changed the environment that you're in.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like a quick fix. I want to believe, we all want to believe that we're just going to have this incredible internal change that's going to inspire us to, rethink every aspect of our lives. It doesn't always happen first in the home. You know what I mean? You start to change maybe your career. You just don't, people don't often gravitate towards the first thing being changing the home. It's usually something that's reflected way later in that emotional process. So I try to get people to think about, the process of decluttering, letting go, because it is actually incredibly cathartic. So that in itself can be a trigger for helping you heal emotionally. And part of my story is that I did that for myself after a bad car accident, where I was actually, ironically, in a situation much like what we're experiencing right now, where I couldn't work. I was forced to be home, and I just had all of these glaring reminders of all the things that weren't working for me. It was just overwhelmed everywhere. Everywhere I looked, overwhelmed, stressed out. And so I, in my process, started by addressing the things that I knew I could control. And even though I couldn't control, and I wasn't even particularly ready to deal with some of the internal things or the major life choices that I had to make. So I just started with the clearing of the clutter. And I that's why I see a lot of this work that we do is symbolic. And also it's a trigger for helping you understand how capable you actually are, and it's not like you have to clean out your entire house or whatever. It's just sometimes just cleaning out one space or one drawer or one area, and giving yourself that gift of the levity that you feel when you do that is incredibly powerful. And so I encourage people to do that, because it's like, especially when right now, when everything feels so completely out of control and uncertain, there are certain things that you can control. And I do think that there is something powerful in the act of that catharsis that happens when you start to put things that are chaotic into order. And a good way to do that is in the home.
Yeah. That's wow, that is so relevant to to the time that we're in right now. And well, it's such a fascinating story to understand how, like, kind of your personal trajectory of, being in the film industry and then the car accident. And was the car accident the catalyst for the change into this career, or was it there was the car accident and then I realized all the outer clutter and how I wanted to address it, and then going through that process you thought, I would actually like to do this for a living, like I want to build a whole business around this?
That's pretty much how it happened. I didn't have the self-awareness at the time to know what was going on. I was addicted to work. I was addicted to the hustle, and I worked 17-hour days. I was the starving artist. I was the live, die, bleed by how hard you can work. And I worked in the film industry is sort of like that. That's like a value system,
Mhm.
and my husband still works in it in a different capacity. He's a film producer, but um, in production, which is what I was doing,
Mhm.
the value system was how hard can you work, how quickly can you work, and how much can you bleed for it. And that was how I built my ego around like that, and that's how I defined myself. Unfortunately, it wasn't sustainable. I never saw women in that field with the lifestyle that I wanted to have. Many of
Mm.
them didn't have children, many of them didn't have families. They were burning the midnight oil at midnight alone just to go home to their dogs, and then maybe tomorrow be shipped off to Canada for 9 months. Like, it wasn't a sustainable lifestyle, and I knew that, and I knew that that's what I was entering into. And in addition to some personal stresses that I was going through at the time, my life was just chaotic. It was complete chaos. And I had a really bad, I actually ended up cutting my finger off, which is a crazy story, on a table saw. There were signs from the universe that I wasn't listening to. Like, this is not healthy. This is not sustainable. This is not a lifestyle that you should be living. But I was
Mhm.
so addicted to it, and my ego is so involved in it that I didn't have the awareness at the time to be able to say, this is something that I can change. I was just
Mm.
in it. And so, from my point of view, the car accident that happened, it was a drunk driver. Like, I almost died. My husband had to say it's a very, like, the Notebook story. I won't get into all of it right now. Um,
Wow.
we came out of it and we survived. But the downside of it was I was forced to be at home for an extended period of time. My husband was in a wheelchair for 6 months. Like, it was a very intense time where I was forced, kind of like what's happening now, to
Mhm.
get real with myself. And it started for me with this process of, like, everywhere I looked, I just saw chaos. Why? I was working 17-hour days. I wasn't addressing things. My house was a mess. My life was a mess. I was disconnected from my relationships. Everything was just in turmoil. And so it wasn't surprising for me cosmically that the accident happened, because much like I think many people are realizing right now, um, we all kind of needed to go to our rooms and take a break and reassess, right? And so that had
Yeah.
happened to me before, and in that, I started to just get extreme clarity, kind of like it's happening right now for me actually again, which is very interesting. Um, Extreme clarity over what I need and what's essential,
Mhm.
and I started that process by just purging, clearing anything that wasn't working, all the clutter, relationships, and ultimately it was the job, because I
Mhm.
realized that in that quiet time, I think the thing that happens, and again, people are experiencing this right now, is that when you go from a mile a minute, you don't have time to process, you're not thinking through things. Um, if they're in alignment with what you want to do and who you actually are and what your real vision for your life is, you don't
Mhm.
have that time. And so what
Mm.
I experienced after the car accident was the time to get that clarity and the slowing down to um, make choices that really were in alignment with who I wanted to be. And so that's how
Wow.
I started doing it for myself. And then I had been doing kind of organizing in between film jobs um, for other people. And I knew that it was something that really helped them, because most people, it's I'm selling them time. Most people just don't have time.
Mm.
And so it just evolved from there. And then fast forward, it's been 8 years since then. And now I've been able to build a thriving business around helping people to, experience what I experienced. And the reason it's so powerful is I know it works. From me, I don't think I ever would have written a book. I don't think I ever would have started a business. I don't think I ever would have seen my clients write books and have babies and sometimes get divorced, do all the things that I feel like they needed to do for themselves because they're so bogged down by, I don't have enough time. I'm so overwhelmed. There's clutter everywhere. How do I get out of this? And most people just don't take that time to get out of that mental space.
Yeah.
That's a long answer to your question.
It was great. There's so many, again, I'm faced with, I'm like, oh gosh, there's so many directions I could take this. I'm curious about, and we haven't even got into the mechanics of the business yet, but, the thing that you were just mentioning about, that you see people have babies and get divorced and all these things that you were saying that was on the horizon for them, but they were able to make decisions after this. So man, it sounds like it is such a cathartic experience, both what you went through, but that you're creating this for other people too. Like it just seems it's so much more than organizing, it's way, way, way more than organizing. I mean, it's like you're giving people back their life or even just hitting a big reset button, which, is amazing. The other thing I want to ask you about though, is that you've made the analogy between what happened after the car accident and what's happening now. That must be tough, because I wonder if in some ways, just for you personally, if it feels like you're going through that same experience again.
Yes, except I have the point of view of knowing that like my life completely changed after that accident. I was in the darkest place. I mean, we got hit by a drunk driver that didn't have car insurance. I was just out of graduate school. Like we were not financially stable at that time. Like it was the worst possible time. It was if I looked at it, I actually did an Instagram post about this like a couple months ago around my anniversary, because it had been 8 years since all of this had happened. And I was just acknowledging like, wow, had that never happened, would I be here? It was the month of October. And in that month, my husband had a TV show come out. My book came out.
I remember that month.
Things had happened. And I was like, this is 8 years after, in the same month, the darkest place I had ever been in. And so I didn't see it at the moment as being what I knew it could have been. I allowed myself to feel the sadness and the downtime, and I healed and all of that. But I think because I'm deeply optimist at heart, like even though the situations were so terrible and we didn't know how we were going to ever dig out, I have the perspective going through it now that it is possible. And that's kind of what I hope for other people too, is that they realize that, truly in these times that are so uncertain, that's when we can get our most creative. We have the time to think and assess, which is actually a gift, to think about what could be possible. And I just hope that other people can start to maybe even hear that story and realize that even though it seems very dire right now, beautiful things can come from it. Because for me, I can't even imagine what my life would be. I'd probably still be on that stress train. You know what I mean? If that hadn't happened, if I hadn't had that time to really make change. So I mean, look, my situation hasn't changed. I mean, you probably want to ask me about that too. Like, this is hard. I lost 95% of my business overnight. My husband and I were in Hawaii, like, enjoying a vacation because he had been gone for 9 months. He's working on a film in Pittsburgh, and we decided we're going to have this great vacation. Here we are, and we're in Hawaii. And so everything's great. It's been hard because he's been away. And then the world just kind of fell on our lap, and things just have been this sort of roller coaster snowball of just, you're losing this, you're losing that. The team is this, we can't work. I mean, it's on paper, it's a disaster, right? But like I said, I feel like I keep telling people we've been through hard things before. You know what I mean? We're survivors, and this is a challenge. Life is a journey, and this is what we're made to do. We're strong, incredible humans with incredible capacity. And I just happen to have the perspective of having gone through something really hard before. And that's not even the least of it. I've been through even harder things than that I'm not going to get into right now. But going through that makes it a lot easier to address even the most scary situation. I mean, this is one of the most scary situations I've ever been in also, and my business is affected. But I have that point of view of knowing that there's something on the other side.
Sure. Sure. It reminds me of the saying, the strongest steel goes through the hottest flame. And it's hard when you're in the moment, when you're being hit by that flame, but it does really strengthen our steel. It does make it, those hardships, as tough as they are to walk through, those storms, they're tough to walk through, but they're also the thing that gives us the strength to walk through the future storms, and it sounds like you're drawing so much on the strength of those hard moments that you've already gone through. That version of Monica that got through those other tough things is who you brought to the table today. Like, no, I know this woman, and she's really good at getting through tough things. And so she's going to be really good at getting through this one too.
Sure. And it doesn't mean I don't cry 5 times a day. I'm human. I'm emotional. Like it's crazy. I mean, everything that's happening is it's still hard, but it doesn't mean I'm defeated or that I haven't been able to. By the way, Pivotme is the best. I was like, when she really picked the right name.
Oh my God, I know. Oh my God, my trademark attorney is so excited that I went through the trademarking process. She's like, it's so good. I'm so glad we own this. It's so dead on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's so apropos. So, the point is, it's like, we just pivot now, you experience what it is. It's like grief, you grieve what you had. But I think it's, people always say, like, you can't, even in business, like, you can't get stuck with your business being one thing. I love what I do. I love connecting with people. I love having my team. I love being out in the field. I miss everybody. But I have to sort of start over in terms of what I thought that business was, because I don't know if it's ever going to go back to being the same. And I've had to literally pivot to think about, how can I redefine this so that the vision is still the same, because the vision doesn't change.
Sure. Just, yeah, we were talking about this on one of the earlier Pivotme lives, where it was just a matter of where we're headed can be the same destination, but all the milestones in between look different. Like the how has changed, but the what can remain the same. One thing I want to point out is I loved, and thank you so much for sharing, and also just being open and vulnerable on these calls, because it is hard and it is a struggle. And I wanted it to be an honest chat. And because I was on a call this morning with one of my masterminds, and someone was saying it's tough because when you see people navigating it really well, you think, oh my gosh, is it just me that's struggling? And I'm like, oh, no, it's not just you. And so it's so good for us to show up and go, yeah, this is tough. I'm going to do my best. But sometimes we're stumbling through the day, and sometimes we're sailing through the day, and that can change every 60 seconds. Like, I got this, I'm amazing. And you're like, I don't know that I don't have this anymore. So I appreciate your honesty. But one thing I want to point out is when you look at business owners, you look at entrepreneurs, you look at sort of their trajectory or their lifeline. Very often their big success, what preceded that just a little bit, was some major pitfall, an accident, a near-death experience, maybe a loss of someone. I mean, it's amazing how there's a business group that I'm a part of, and we do these lifelines for our businesses, and we track the highs and lows, and they're so predictable. And so I want to highlight that often out of sort of the ashes really does rise something very beautiful if we do it, if we keep turning our eye towards the opportunity, not towards the door that's closed. Because if we're dropped to our knees and we stare longingly at that door that closed, we can waste our time. I mean, we have to grieve and we have to process this. But if you look at the businesses who've done really well, or the people that have pivoted and had these, really, fulfilling careers and fulfilling lives, oftentimes right before that big bang was some devastating thing. And so we're just there. We're at the low. Like, if we're looking at our time low, we might be at our low point, but after this could be something amazing. And I'm so glad that you shared that this has been the case in your life as well. So for those that maybe haven't hit those low points and they're in one right now, just know that something really amazing can come right after this.
And I think that's the sort of amazing part of the human experience and the journey that we have here. If people can understand that perspective, even if they haven't experienced it, just to know it and to see it and hear the stories of how that's happened, because it's happened over and over and over again. I'm actually doing this Rise Up Challenge I think I invited you to it on Facebook, but it's all these stories and everybody, all these people. It's like some of the great spiritual leaders and uh, professional business leaders and motivational speakers, and every single one of them has that story. It's like, I fell and I got up. I
Mhm.
had this horrible thing happened, and from that I learned this. And so if we can just keep remembering that that's what we're all being challenged to do, and like also we're not alone, like everybody's dealing with it.
Mhm.
There's something
Mhm.
that I heard Rachel Hollis talking yesterday. It was really interesting because she was talking to I think his name is Donald Miller from StoryBrand, and
Oh
they were
yeah.
talking about how you know they tend to not share in time their experiences,
Mhm.
um, and like how much in as leaders should we share the vulnerable times and when you're in the process and you don't have an answer. And I thought it was really interesting, and generally they were saying, we don't do that a lot, but I think the thing about right now is that there is some camaraderie, and like everybody's going through the shit show together. You know what I mean? Like we're all dealing with it in time. We don't have all the answers, but the one thing we do have and the one thing we can share is that there is possibility for so much good to come out on the other side, and more good, probably exponentially. I mean, for me, when I think about what I've done since that really, really dark time in my life, I don't know that I would have ever done any of that, written a
Mhm.
book, built a business, built a team, become a leader, become a speaker. Like, I don't know that I would have ever done any of that had I
Mhm.
not fallen that low.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And now I've got to go listen to this Rachel Hollis and Donald Miller because I like them both. So, and that's something that is a struggle as a leader is how much do you share? How much do you share about your own struggle? How much do you show behind the scenes because you want to lead people through it? You lead your team and your family and your, many people in the community as well through this. But we don't want to highlight the struggle too much because we want to give people hope and courage and we got this, keep going ahead. But then you also want to be relatable and you also want people to understand it's okay if you're struggling. I think it's now I've got to go listen to it, Monica. That sounds amazing. So let's talk about your business right now. So your business entails you and your team going into people's houses, and obviously that can't happen right now. So is any of your team still working? Are they working remotely? Is there work to do remotely in your business, or has everything just kind of halted for a bit?
It's interesting. I mean, I would say, we've lost maybe not 90%, 95%, maybe about 70% of our business, just because so much of that is in homes and in, people, we have a stay home order. And so we're not essential workers. We do have some essential jobs. Moving is considered an essential job right now.
Mhm.
But again, that's a challenge as well, because, deciding to send a team out in the middle of a pandemic, even if it is an essential service, it's considered an essential service. How safe is that really? So
Yeah.
there's a lot going on with us and like making those decisions. But the majority of the business is on hold. And so it was like, well, it's going to be 2 weeks. We can handle that. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, fine. Now it's a month. Well, how long is it really? And then what does it look like on the other side? We're still like we are figuring that out in time. We don't
Mhm.
have answers to that. And so, as a business owner and someone who's responsible to salaries and people's livelihood, I've had to really, really just accept it
Mhm.
and pivot in the ways that I can. So yes, we're doing some virtual services, but not so much. Our clientele is not the do-it-yourself clientele, so they're not
Sure.
like I'm not going to be coaching them through doing it
Yeah.
themselves. They're going to let it pile up, and we'll come back. It's the way that our clients tend to be. On the other hand, I did write a book, and so I'm starting to create some like courses and classes and things for people who maybe do want to learn, because that was the whole intention of the book that I wrote, is to teach people how to do it themselves and
Sure.
to learn the process, how to think like a professional organizer, because that's the one thing I
Mhm.
can't share. But as far as the actual services, that's evaporated. It's just, and that's one of the things that right now, again, it's like I see it as an opportunity, even though it is very, very hard to like never put myself in the situation again where we rely so heavily only on the service-based business, because it could come back, could be, something even worse. We don't know that this is not going to happen again. So I'm trying right now to focus my energy on the other ways that we can utilize our client base, our followers. We have a pretty decent platform. So we have that. We haven't up until now had an offering for those besides the book. So I'm really excited actually to have this time to think about the ways that I can increase my revenue streams and diversify. And then I'm also building my personal brand. So, but as far as the business goes, services are, I have friends who are like, yeah, I just moved my laptop home and we're good. We just keep plugging away. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really work that way when you have a space.
I was thinking what ends up emerging from this is two different, to use kind of marketing terminologies, two different avatars or demographics that you work with. Like there's the clients that are done for you, that we come in and we handle everything, which sounds like historically has been, and you and I've talked a little bit about the clients that you have. They're definitely people that you come in and you're handling things and you're going in and you're giving them this amazing setup that either you can continue to maintain or they can then take over and maintain, but it's all done for you. But it sounds like what might be emerging is a separate set of clientele that is focused on, okay, well, what of this can I do myself? And to your point of the book, hey, let me teach you to think like a professional organizer. So is that something that might really come out of this of, okay, now we have two separate demographics and we talk to them differently and we build products, and maybe this is strictly services only, but this one over here might be products and services?
That's exactly what we're doing. And actually I have now a tertiary sort of avatar, which is other professional organizers, because I've been, since I've read the book, and I have, for years, they've been asking me, how did you get started? How are you getting clients? Like, how are you? I've never had an offering for that base, and I have a ton of followers. I actually did a speaking engagement at a organizers conference, and that's a huge part of the people that follow and inquire. So I've actually been building something out for them as well. So now I'm able to speak to, and that's sort of the gift that's come out of this, is my whole business has been so primarily focused on building out our team and serving the client base and the one-on-one. But now just through this pivoting that we're doing, we're getting into the knowledge business. I'm actually doing Tony Robbins' KBB Knowledge Broker Blueprint, which is really awesome. I love it. It's so good. And it's really helping me to, because I do feel like the knowledge business is the future. And when you have a set of knowledge or skills that you can share with a wider audience, the one-on-one is great, but it's not reaching. And so there's a huge opportunity for me to now step into that and teach. And it's not something I ever thought I would be doing, but now I'm doing it and I'm excited about it. So I've been kind of directing my efforts to the professional organizing community, who, again, they've reached out to me a lot and asked, do I franchise? Do I have, courses? And up until now, I've been able to say, I've had to say no. And now I'm able to say, well, yes, I'm working on it. So that's been a huge gift. And then, yes, there's definitely the sort of, the followers of the book who want to learn. They're at home. And I mean, ironically, the coronavirus is kind of the great equalizer, because even my clients are home so they may even take advantage of that as well. Because they're like, even if they want to do it, they can't, they don't have the help that they're used to. So,
sure.
So yeah, I've got those things. And then I'm also, one of the cool things that we've been able to do just in terms of pivoting has been, we were going to be launching our first product in the fall, and we're able to launch it now, even though it's not the full collection. I've been putting on some archival boxes for photo storage, and they don't exist anywhere else in the world. And so we weren't going to be launching it until the fall, but people are home now, so I'm trying to take advantage of that.
Sure.
People never want to do a home organizing project ever again.
A lot of people are turning to that. They're like, well, now's the time. I should probably do this. So yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Oh, that's great that you're launching it early. And when we get information on that, we'll be sure to share it both in Facebook and then on our page. So when we're wrapped up, we drop it on and we'll put the links in there, but pivot-me.com/interviews. And we'll be sure to put all the links in there because, man, that seems timely. I mean, it seems relevant, and you're addressing a need that's very real. It's interesting. I've heard this phrase where both in business and personal, where it's kind of a joke, but essentially, what do you have that's toilet paper to someone else? And that only makes sense in this time, but you've got skills, you've got abilities, and whether that's teaching someone on personal organizing or teaching someone how you built a business. You built a very successful business, and it's been going on for a while, but you built a successful business in a relatively short amount of time. There are things that we know that people are trying to find solutions for too. And so sometimes our business won't look in that traditional way, but again, this is the time to pivot. So what do you have that other people really are trying to figure out how to do? And then to your point, maybe it's knowledge, the knowledge business. We're fans too. In fact, we're similar situation. We have a digital course on time management and productivity. We had delayed the launch because of what was going on. And that was my call. And here's the thing. I made the wrong call. Thank God my team came back to me and said, April, this is not the time to delay the launch. Like, this is, people want knowledge right now. People want to take this time, and I mean, their distractions are many, but people want to take this time to be better. And if they can make use of this time or learn a new skill, we need to make that. So we ended up delaying it so we could add a bonus module on responding to distraction and productivity in this season in your life, because that's definitely something people are battling. But I love that you're leaning more into the information space, into the knowledge space, because that's something you can do right now. And it definitely diversifies your offering, because a lot of people are finding, oh, wait, I just had one thing, and that one thing worked for us, right? But then there's this whole eggs, one basket. Who knew a pandemic was coming? And then suddenly everyone's scratching their head going, okay, well, how do I diversify now? I need to diversify right this second. So kudos to you for immediately looking for, okay, well, this door has shut. Where's my window? And I would imagine that's true to some extent for, I guess I should say, it would seem that your house has been hit pretty hard, because I know that your husband's on site a lot for filming, and that's got to be a change for him as well too.
You mean dealing with my husband's campsite? Yes. Well, because I got a little bit used to having things nice and tidy and organized the way that I like it, and then it's been like, whoa, it's intense. I mean, I can't complain. We don't, we're actually trying for kids. We don't have kids yet. Mostly that's just because our lifestyle has been, I was working in production for so long, and then he actually took a job in production, so it's hasn't been the most conducive. And then I had my book baby last year, so right now we're trying to focus. I mean, the plus side is that we do have that time. We can work on family planning and things in a way that's another huge bonus that we just didn't have, and we couldn't ever find the room in our lives to make that happen. But the reason I left my former career and started this business was so that we could start a family. And so we're working on that right now. But yeah, I mean, I also have my mom living with me right now. She's been staying with us for a while, because while he was away, she was really helping me with my business. And so there's a lot of different personalities and dynamics, and she's a spreader router. I have a framework in my book that I kind of like. Each person is sort of a color. Like, I'm a gold. I like things like very meticulous and a home for everything. A silver is kind of like the, neat piles person. And then like a bronze is the spreader outer, right? Like, they just don't need it. Like, my husband can step over a pile. It doesn't bother him. I wish I was like that. I am not. And they're both bronzes. So it's like, I am constantly trying to re-systematize, because I feel like we had a lot of systems, but those systems, kind of broke down when our lives changed, so we're having to rewrite all the internal systems. I bought a robotic vacuum because I'm like, I just can't, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's one thing I can take off my plate. So I've had to really think about the ways that I can just reset so that I am not lost in this situation. My heart goes out to parents too, because I know how hard it is, because there's so many uncontrollable variables for working at home, or dealing with all the additional stresses on top of everything else. So, but for me, I mean, I think it's really interesting that what you were talking about with productivity, because for me, there's a lot of different conversations about productivity right now. I don't know if you've noticed that. Like, should you be productive? Should you just rest? Like, how productive should you be. And I feel like, of course, rest is important, but I also think it's so important to have, a space of your own where you can go and be productive.
Mm.
Because someone said yesterday, like, action is the anecdote. And for me, that is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when there's so many things we can't control, sitting around and watching Netflix all day is
Sure.
lovely, but it's not going to move the needle, and it's not going to get us out of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not
Mm-hmm.
only on a personal level, but on a global level. So, so productivity and finding ways to set up your home and systems, even given this totally new situation, we have to
Mm-hmm.
find ways to still move the needle, even though it feels like chaos. And because right now is not the time to implode.
Sure. And you're 100%. I couldn't agree with you more, Monica. And it's interesting. I had a friend share something yesterday it was an article, and it was very well written, and it had some valid points in it, but essentially it was saying, okay, motivational people, shut up, stop talking about motivation and all the things you could be doing right now. And I read the article and I was like, okay, I see your point. And I was like, I'm not going to take your advice, but I see your point. She had some really funny lines in there, but essentially she's like, I'm just surviving. No, I'm not going to learn a new skill. No, I'm not going to this. No, I'm not. I'm pretty much sitting on my couch watching Netflix and just trying to get through the day. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like you do you. If that's your pandemic avatar, that's cool. Like if that's the character you're playing in the pandemic, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are other people that want to handle it differently. I don't know that there's a right way, but what I do know is that fulfillment is found in progress. And if we don't feel like we're progressing towards anything, if we feel like we're just on pause, waiting to exhale, we're going to have a hard time being happy right now. And I don't want to wait that long to be happy. I don't want to wait that long to feel fulfillment or progress, or that something's moving ahead. Not to say that I'm not going to stumble, not to say that I'm going to have those rough days where I'm just like, forget it. It's margaritas at 4 p.m. I've had a couple of those days. But we don't know how long this is going to take. And I want to enjoy this time. I want to progress during this time, not in all things, but in some things. And so I think that's really important to remember is we've got to progress in some ways. We got to give ourselves some space and some grace to navigate this, because it's a whole new world. And if you just need to get in bed and pull the covers over your head, you do that. But then get back up. Then try your best to do again. Like, it's okay that you fall down, but let's stand back up again, and let's look at it from a new perspective, because we are leading others, we are influencing others, and whether that's you're influencing your spouse or your kids or your community. Or what's cool is that a lot of times, Monica, we talk about leadership in this podcast, and how we're leading during this time. And one of the things that I just heard is you were leading a team. You built a team, you built this business, you were leading your business, you were leading your team, you were also leading your clients. But now it sounds like the leadership gap that you're about to fill is leading other professional organizers. And it's kind of interesting to see how we're being called forth to lead. And some people are leading their communities, even in small ways or big ways. I went to a friend's house yesterday, and she had this giant sign made. She designed a giant sign. I don't even know how she got it printed. And it's hanging above her garage. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's very like springtime, bright spring colors. And like, there's like a bird flying over. It's very sweet. Looks like, kind of like kids and playful. And it says, okay, remember, there's a rainbow after every storm. Neighbors, we're going to get through this. Stay strong. And it was just this sweet, positive sign. I loved it when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, this was such a great idea. But this was a way for her to kind of lead her neighbors through this as a constant reminder. You can't help but see it every time you drive on that street. Just, hey, we're going to get through this. Like, stay strong, stay focused on this. Eventually comes to an end. And so I love the amazing ways both you and just the other people are stepping up and leading during this time. That's a real gift. That's a real gift I've seen come out of this time is people. In times like this, there will people that will stand down, and there's people that'll stand up. And it's really awesome to watch the people that step up in this time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I am looking to leaders. Like, that's been when you feel confused, even myself, I'm like, I want to look and see, what do other people have to say? I'm really leaning into other people's inspiration and their stories, and finding solace in that, because I don't want to just flounder. I want to keep
Mhm.
going. I want to, like you said, I call it, I think I said, it's like, I'll take the slow and steady train. Like, I don't need to, I have my morning routine and my nightly routine, and some days I get to it and some days I don't. It's like all with grace.
Mhm.
But I want to keep moving. I had my couple weeks of riding the roller coaster and crying and being upset, and I still get emotional. Those are real feelings, but for me, it's slow and steady.
Yeah.
It's progress, like you said. I think that's really important, because similarly, I heard someone say yesterday that some productivity was a luxury, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way, because I
Mm.
was like, you know what, like, and it was coming from a person who has, a very successful business, and she was saying, like, you should slow down and take this time. And I'm like, that is great, but not for myself and for many people, productivity is not a luxury. We need to keep our businesses afloat. We
Mhm.
need to keep going. I
There's
can
people that
slow
depend on
down.
us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I can't just stop. I have to keep going. I can slow down. I can take the time that I need. I can take a nap, and I'm at home, and I can take a bath in the middle of the day if I need to. You know what I mean? But I have to keep going, and I have to really put one foot in front of the other. I think the one difference is that I'm remembering, which is a trigger to the time that I was home before, which is, it's okay to do it slower. You don't, I think
Mhm.
the tendency is to just go, go, go and have it fast. And I think the one perspective I have right now is to do it slow and steady.
Mm.
And that feels really good. That's reducing my anxiety. It's reducing the fear. It's, it's celebrating small wins and getting those three things that I need to do done every day. Even if
Yeah.
if I'm not changing the world in a day, I'm just doing the things that I can do and
Mhm.
not procrastinating. Because I think the procrastination and if you get too far into the not working or the relaxing, that
Mhm.
can lead to lethargy, depression, and I've seen that happen too. So it's a fine line.
For
You
sure.
really have to just kind of stay optimistic and stay productive, and, like you said, progress.
Yeah. It reminds me of the line. I don't know if it's originally his, so this might be a line that he quotes someone else, but when Rory Vaden says, go as fast as you can, but as slow as you need to, that's really applicable
Love
right
that.
now. Yeah.
I love, yes, yes. And it's for somebody who's so, you know, wise and is a productivity expert, like that is so insightful, right?
Mhm.
As fast as you can, but as slow as you need to. Like, it's okay to take a break. I think that's the thing. It's like, I always see these checklists of do this, the morning routine, and check this list. But nobody's ever saying, like, but it's okay if you don't do it every day. The
Mhm.
point is to have the guideline that you work from. Most people don't
Yeah.
have the map, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the ideal day look like for you? What does your morning routine and nightly routine look like? What helps
Sure.
you on the best day? It doesn't mean that you're not going to wake up tomorrow and feel tired, or your kids are running in the house and you just have to deal with a sick child. It just means that you don't lay in bed all day again just because you did it yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every day is like the reset button. I have a
Right.
client that she always says, I look at it as that every night I go to bed. It sounds a little lofty, but stick with me. She said, I look at it as every night I go to bed and I die, and every morning I wake up, I'm reborn. And essentially, she's saying, I just hit this big reset button, that it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. All that matters is what happens today. And I want to talk about habits and resources that you're leveraging right now to serve you. But real quick, I want to touch on the whole morning routine. Huge fan of morning routines. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. But one thing that I've said is, in this time, is apply the 80-20 rule with your morning routine. You should apply it in business and just about everything. But this is the time to bust out our friend Pareto, right? So let's use Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. Of the, say, 10 things you typically do on your morning routine, what's the 20% that are real needle movers? Because maybe you used to get up at 5 a.m. and maybe you used to go to Orange Theory, and then you meditated and you this and you that and you did this elaborate morning routine. Well, that may not be happening right now. But look at the morning routine and say, what really matters most? What are the 20% that gets me 80% of the results? And I'll tell you, one of the things that come out on a lot of these calls and calls that I have with my clients is, a lot of times it's journaling in the morning. and then something simple like a walk in the morning. Maybe it's a walk listening to a podcast or an audiobook, but journaling comes up over and over again. And the other thing that's been a real important part for night routines was meditating at night. And for those who don't meditate, don't think necessarily sitting on a pillow, getting in the lotus position saying Om. It can be a lot of different things. It can be guided meditation while you're laying in bed, listening to an app like Headspace or Insight Timer, but just a time to kind of clear your head and reset. But whatever that is for you, really look at what's the couple of things that I can do that are really going to matter most. Because if we try to do our usual morning routine, it just might be too much right now. But find the things that matter most and do those. And not only is it, maybe it's 15 minutes of exercise, something simple. Not only is it doing things that are good for you, but it also gives us our control back in a time where people are feeling largely powerless. And just to be clear, we're not powerless, but it's easy to feel that way. It's easy to feel like right now we're getting whipped around by the tail. Just, all right, well, let's just see what see what dumpster fire we're in today. We're not, but it can feel that way. And there's a lot of information in either media or social media that's really can make us feel so powerless. And having a morning routine, having something that you're consistently doing each day gives you back your power. It lets you take a lot of that back, that you do have some control over what is in your day and the way that you're progressing. And you're not just waiting and seeing. So
I absolutely agree with that. I love that because it's funny. I started out the year and it was like, I started this in December. I was like, okay, with my goals, and one of my major goals was to solidify my morning and nightly routine. It's been something I've wanted to do. Like, what is it? Like starting at 6:30, my friend showed me in her app, like how she has it. She even puts all the little steps from like taking her vitamins to I was like, I love that. Give me that. Like, recipe. And you know what I mean? And so I did that too. I created it for myself and it was like 10 minutes of meditation. And then I do my gratitudes, and then I water with my lemon and my phytonutrients and all this. And it was just a little bit absurd. And I've probably only done the full routine morning and night, like maybe 10 times since the beginning of the year. And that says something too, because that was before the coronavirus, right? So I love all of that. And I think it's the ideal, and maybe I'll get back to it. But I think really it's like you said, it's like, what is the more realistic version of that? And so for me, it's like I drink my coffee in bed. I meditate for like 10 or 15 minutes because for me that I love to just like sit there and drink my coffee. It helps me. It's calms me. I love the smell of my Stumptown coffee. It's a nice way for me to wake up. Maybe it's my paradigm, but I'm not typically a morning person. I'm much more of a night owl. That's where I get really energized and jazzed. I've created my most amazing work at night. So the mornings are a little slower for me. So I do that. And then I write, one of the practices that we started, I think probably together, or maybe you did it already, but was gratitudes, because that really grounds me in my day. I appreciate the feeling because I'm not a morning person. And sometimes I wake up with all those doom and gloom and the anxieties and the feelings of like, what's going to go wrong with the day, and it kind of hits me hard. I've realized that I need to wake up in the morning and immediately align myself with positivity. And the thing about the gratitudes is that it immediately puts me into the feeling space of feeling good, as opposed to the feeling space of feeling depressed or overwhelmed or whatever. And so I'm immediately grounding myself and my day in a feeling of what I'm grateful for, because each of the things that I'm writing down in my gratitude list is things that I'm actually grateful for. And the gratitudes are sort of related to also my goals. So I do a little goal setting exercise. And, all of that only takes 15, 20 minutes. And that's kind of what I've limited it to. Sometimes I put some phytonutrients in my water and I drink that, but it doesn't have to be so beat by beat. And I'm not beating myself up if I forget to take my vitamins. It's like that's an easy way for me to ease into my day. And I feel really good about it. But that act of writing something down and getting centered in who I am and what I stand for and what I'm grateful for and my goals are is incredibly powerful, because it does set the tone for my day. And then as far as my evening routine, it's kind of similar. I don't meditate at night. I usually take a bath, and then I journal, and I listen to some kind of, professional development work of some kind, whether it's like a spiritual thing or a business podcast or a course that I'm doing. I listen to that, and then I usually take a bath and wind down that way. So it's a much less intensive version of what stricter morning or nightly routine, but it's more about having that framework too. So for the days I wake up energized and I'm like ready to take on the world, I'm like, give me that lemon and the phytonutrients and let me take my vitamins and I'll do the whole thing and I'll exercise for half an hour and then I'll go do my green drink. I'll do the full routine, but that's not every day because right now I feel like I am dealing with a lot of extra stress and other things that are just coming up on a moment's notice. And so I have to be really real about what I actually can do. So it's all with grace. But and the other thing I do is I plan my day the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll
even now.
Yeah. Especially now. Especially now.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Is there anything, so some really good information on what you're doing now. Is there anything that you're not doing now, like that you're avoiding? You kind of talked about the things that are on your yes list. What's on your no list? And just to give some context. So some of the people say, okay, when I roll out of bed, don't scroll over and start looking at the news because I realize that ruins my day, or I'm staying off of social media only at these times, or is there something, or I'm limiting myself to only 2 shows a night at Netflix. Do you have anything like that you're like, I'm going to stay away from this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not watching a lot of television. That's really hard because my husband is a film producer. So when people say, "Do you watch a lot of shows?" I'm like, "We watch all the shows, like normally, you know." And right now, we have a guest room that's adjacent to it's a guest room / office that I'm in right now, and I've been spending a lot of time in here because I don't want to be distracted by. Sometimes my husband thinks like quality time is like I can't be like typing on my computer. I have to be like really engaged in watching the show with him because that's part of his process.
Every married couple.
Yeah. So, I just kind of have to say that's not what I'm doing. And that's one of the things about the nightly routine. It pulls me away from that. Whereas otherwise, if I wasn't doing that, I would be binge watching Netflix with him like till 4 a.m. Like that's just because he loves to watch. The other thing is he's become like a night owl and a morning person. So he needs like 5 hours of sleep. So he can watch TV. It's crazy. And I'm like, I need 8 hours of sleep. So I need to create these parameters for myself. So it's just like, I maybe watch like 1 hour of television a day, if that. So I've really, really limited to that. And that has been a very conscious choice because it's very easy to do. You know what I mean? Like he loves it. We have fun together. It's one of the things that we bond over because we're both cinephiles, but I've had to just put that on pause for now. And the other thing is I'm not doing any free work. I've had a lot of, I do some like influencer brand deals and things like that. And I've had a lot of people reach out and want to do things. But for me right now, it's just not an option. And I feel like I could be doing that forever. I do so much when I'm not under this kind of stress to help people do 3 things and go way above and beyond that. Right now is just not the time for me personally. I know a lot of people are doing that and I think it's wonderful, but I have to be practical. And so for me, it's just saying no to anything that isn't, really like monetizing right now. And that's just the situation that I'm in. So yeah. And of course, anything I feel like that's not in alignment with my spirit, I'm really leaning on my intuition right now. I had an experience the last week where someone had asked me to do something to share a program with my email list. And it just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? It was like, I sometimes, you run so fast in your day-to-day life. You're not listening to your instincts. You have a bad feeling, but you don't act on it and you just do. You give and you give. But the huge advantage that I'm seeing with this slower time is just the time to say, let me think about that. It's probably a no, but let me think about that. And if it's a yes, like it's in alignment with where I am right now, then I will give that. But I don't want to overextend myself, which is a tendency that I always do. So I'm taking the time to say like, it's a no, unless it's a definite yes.
Yeah. Unless it's a hell yes, then it's a no. Yeah. I think that was either Dean Graciosty or Jen Hatmaker. Anyways, someone else said that wasn't mine, but I love that. If it's not a hell yes, then it's got to be a no. And it helps us put things more clearly on our yes or no list. And the other thing is right now it's going to look different than it did a month ago. And it's supposed to, like our yes, no list is supposed to have changed a lot. Is there and it's funny, we said we were going to do this. We're like, oh, we're going to keep the interview tight and we'll, and then we run over. That's what we do, Monica. I think we may have lost your video. Hang tight. I think you're coming back. I think you're coming back. That would be kind of funny if that's the way we end it. Like we were talking about that we run over time wise, and then Monica just rage quits and leaves Pivotme live. Like just first time we've had someone rage quit. Come on, Monica. Hopefully we'll get her back on here shortly. But so many great points about both giving yourself grace during this time, especially from a business owner who's 70% of our business. I mean, that's a substantial portion of your revenue. Has gone away, or at least is paused. We'll say paused. Talk about a time to pivot, but she continues to do it with strength and grace and all the things that Monica does when she navigates both good times and bad. So I think we still have lost her. So we're going to hop off, but we'll leave the recording in. For those who are listening, we're going to put it on the usual site, pivot-me.com / we're now using / interviews. It's a little bit easier. And we'll feature all of the live interviews there. And we'll turn the audio into a proper podcast. But for now, for those that are struggling, for those that are in a tough place with their business or even in their personal life, just know that what we were referencing earlier, that out of those struggles often does come brilliant creativity and business ideas or ways to pivot your existing business into whole nother revenue streams. It's tough for us to see it clearly because we're looking through this tiny pinhole of what's going on right now, but try to pan out, try to see the larger picture of there will be opportunity in this time. There is already opportunity in this time. Like Monica was mentioning, opportunity through knowledge-based businesses, digital courses, or virtual speaking, things like that. There are still opportunities even in this time. So make sure we train our eye to look for the opportunity, because what's not working is available. The doors that have shut, we can absolutely spend our time looking at those. I think it's weird. It says we got Monica back in, but I don't know. Monica, I don't know. We can't hear you. But you're back. Are you back?
Sorry.
No worries. No worries. I would love that. We were just wrapping up and saying, well, we were talking about the opportunities that still exist, but Monica, what I would love, if we still have you, because you look a little pixelated. So we'll give it a second. We might lose Monica, but what we really want to hear is Monica has given us some great information, and we want to hear how to help either Monica out directly or your business. If there's something that we can do for Simply Space, whether it's related to your service-based business or the book, we're going to drop the links in for your book on that. For those who are ready to take it upon themselves and think about it, think about their lives and their homes in the same way that a professional organizer would do. Monica's got great insight. In fact, I've got her book sitting on my shelf right now. So it looks like we lost you again, Monica. I'm going to try. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. We got it. I wanted to hear how we can support you before the broadband gods kick us off again. How do we support you and your business during this time?
That's so sweet. Well, you can buy my book. I'm sure everybody has a disorganized friend who needs a little bit of insight. It's really, truly, the book is a how-to guide. So it's it's teaching you the things that I use in my business every day. So, and I do kind of equate some of the physical to the emotional. There's a little bit of that in the book. So obviously, especially if you're at home and feeling overwhelmed by clutter, that's one thing for sure that I believe can help. And the second thing is, just maybe follow on Facebook, follow on Instagram. I am launching. We actually just launched our archival boxes yesterday. I'm very excited. Yeah, it's really cool. They're archival quality, and this is something that it doesn't really exist anywhere else in the world. So I know a lot of people are home right now, and actually that's kind of why we pushed the launch of these, is because we knew that people are home organizing their photos right now. So that's kind of the one thing that we're focused on. And then, eventually we'll have some better resources probably in the next couple of months. I'm going to be starting a mastermind. So it's on the website, but we do have lots of inspirational tips over on Instagram. So follow along there as well.
Absolutely. Is and just as a closing statement, any words of advice that you have for the business owners that are listening, that'll listen via the Pivot Me podcast, or even just people in general, words of advice during this season?
Yeah, I think that the greatest advice that I've gotten that's really resonated with me has been get back in alignment with your vision. You know, because we try to focus so much on our goals, and our goals are not necessarily the same goals today that we had yesterday. I mean, I started out, you should see my vision board. I have it right here. It's like all the goals that I was going to accomplish this year, you know, it's like everything. But the goals are changing. And so I think the thing we can do right now is really get clear about the vision, because the vision shouldn't change based on the goals that you have, right? The vision for me is, you know, building a team that I can provide jobs for. It's helping people clear the clutter in their lives. You know, it's helping people grow into the long-term goal is to help them grow into, or vision is to help people grow into the best version of themselves that they possibly can by clearing all this clutter and the lack of clarity that they have in their lives to get there. So for me, the vision is the same, even though the goals are shifting. And I think people are like, oh, I had these great goals, but now I can't achieve that. I've spent, you know, all Q1 working towards this goal, and now it's all gone away. Well, the vision is still there. And so if you can get really clear on that vision, there's a great book I just bought that I'm looking forward to reading by Michael Hyatt called I think it's called The Vision Driven Leader. And I'm excited to read that, because I feel like even for me, I really need to just get back in alignment with that, because that's what's going to help me get through everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, that is such good advice. Get back in alignment with your vision. I love it.
For your house as well, because your home, that's my other message, right? Is like your home can support you to live that vision. So while you're home, think about the ways in which you can use your home and set up your home in a way that supports you to live the life you want to live. What around you in your environment is not serving the life that you want to live? And ask yourself that question. You know, I think it's very powerful.
Wow. I've got to reflect on that in my own home. Every time we have this conversation, I want to go back and reorganize my home, Monica. It's amazing, because I think about, what is it saying about you, and what is your space saying about you? And is it supporting who you were, or is it supporting who you're about to become? Right. Wow, that's really good.
With grace, right? Like, yes. I used to live in a dump. So like, and it's only taken me this time, you know, now I that's the thing. It's like, you have to get there in your own way. There's no judgment around it. It's for you. It's not for anybody else.
Absolutely. Oh, it's such good advice. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time with us, and giving your insight. It was amazing. And I can't wait to see how you pivot your business, and how you, expand beyond just, services. And you already have expanded with the book, and now the launch of the archival boxes. I'm excited to see all the ways that you end up expanding your business.
Thank you so very much, April. You're the best.
Oh, thank you.